I came back unannounced to surprise them for Christmas. My wife cried silently on the balcony, staring at the tree lights. Inside, my son laughed with his in-laws, as if nothing was missing. No one noticed I'd returned, but I understood everything. At dawn, I changed the locks and turned off the lights. I returned from my trip without telling them. I wanted to surprise them for Christmas. The house was lit up. I could hear laughter coming from the living room. I left my suitcase by the door and walked slowly. On the balcony, my wife was crying silently, looking at the tree lights. Inside, my son was laughing with his in-laws, making a toast as if nothing was missing. Nobody noticed I was back. I just stood there watching, and I understood everything without hearing a single word. But let me tell you from the beginning how a man who built an empire returned home to discover his family had been invaded, and how revenge, when executed with surgical precision, can be devastatingly silent. My name is Michael Anderson. I am 62 years old. I own a chain of boutique hotels in the Florida Keys. 6 properties I built from scratch 30 years ago when nobody believed in luxury tourism in Florida. Today they generate $40 million in annual revenue. It's a life many envy, a success few understand the price I paid for. My wife Claire is 58. We married 35 years ago when I had nothing except dreams and determination. She worked by my side in those first hotels, cleaning rooms when we had no staff, manning the reception desk until midnight, believing in a vision many called crazy. We have one son, Stephen. He's 32. He's an architect. Or at least he has the degree. In practice, he never really worked. Always with excuses about the tough market, demanding clients, the unstable economy. And 4 years ago, he married Amanda, a 3-year-old woman, attractive, educated, from a family with old money in New York City. Since the wedding, things changed subtly at first, then more. Obviously, Stephen started to pull away. He visited less, called less. Amanda always took up his time. Her family demanded attention. Their life in New York apparently had no space for parents in Key West. Dad, you understand, right? Amanda needs to be near her family and the work is there. What work? Stephen, you haven't had a project in 6 months. I'm looking. I'm contacting clients, building a network. Excuses. Always excuses. Meanwhile, I kept sending him money every month. Support that turned into his entire livelihood because Amanda had standards. She needed an apartment on the Upper East Side, a German car, vacations in Europe, and Stephen, weak as he always was, couldn't say no. Claire suffered in silence, watching her son drift away, watching her grandchildren, twins 2 years old, that we rarely saw. We saw them more in social media photos than in person. And every time she mentioned her pain, Stephen had a prepared answer. Mom, don't be dramatic. We're busy. We'll visit when we can. But they never could, except when they needed something. Money for an investment, a loan for a medical emergency, an advance on his inheritance for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I, like the fool I was, always gave it because he was my son, my only son. And parents help their children, right? This year, I decided to take a trip to Europe. Alone, Claire had commitments with the charity foundation she managed, and I needed space. Time to think about the business, about potential expansion into the Caribbean, about a future that felt more and more uncertain. How long will you be gone? Claire asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4. I'll visit properties, meet with investors, explore options. I'll miss you. And I'll miss you, but I'll be back before Christmas. I promise. I left in mid-November. For the first 2 weeks, everything seemed normal. Claire sent me daily messages, photos of the house, updates on the hotels, trivial conversations that kept us connected. But then something changed. The messages became less frequent, shorter, with a tone I couldn't identify. But it worried me, and when I called, she sounded distracted, like she was thinking about something else, like talking to me was an obligation, not a pleasure. Are you okay? I asked during one call. Yes, of course. Why? You sound different. Distant. It's your imagination. I'm just tired. But my gut told me it was more. Something was wrong. And the more I thought about it, the more anxious I got. So, I made a decision I would return early without telling anyone to surprise Claire for Christmas to see with my own eyes what was happening. I arrived in Key West on the afternoon of December 23rd, 3 days earlier than planned. I didn't tell a soul. I took a taxi from the airport to our house, a large residence in an exclusive area overlooking the ocean. A house I had built specifically for Claire for her comfort, for her happiness. It was almost 8 p.m. when I arrived. The house was completely lit up. Christmas lights in the garden, the tree visible through the windows, and sounds, laughter, music like there was a party. I paid the taxi driver, took my suitcase, and walked to the entrance, key in hand, ready for the surprise, for the hug with Claire, for the warmth of home. But then I heard voices, multiple voices, and a laugh I recognized immediately. Stephen? What was Stephen doing here? He was supposed to be in New York with Amanda, with her family. I opened the door silently, leaving my suitcase in the entryway, and moved slowly, following the sounds toward the living room. And what I saw froze me. The living room was full with Stephen, with Amanda, with her parents, my in-laws, all of them making a toast, laughing, in my house, in my living room as if it belonged to them. And then I saw something else on the balcony, visible through the glass doors. Claire, my Claire, sitting alone, a glass of wine in her hand, staring at the Christmas tree with tears running down her face. Nobody was looking at her. Nobody noticed her pain. They were all too busy enjoying the party in the house I had built with the money I had earned, completely ignoring the woman who had given everything for this family. I stayed in the shadows, observing, and I heard the conversation, fragments that revealed everything. Finally, we have the house to ourselves without Michael here giving orders. Amanda, lower your voice. Your mother-in-law might hear. So what, Stephen? Your father is in Europe, probably with the mistress. You think he cares about us? Does he care about Claire, who's out there crying? Just leave her. She'll get used to the new reality. What reality? That this house is perfect for us, for the kids. And with your father traveling constantly, we could, convince Claire it's for the best, that she should move into something smaller, more manageable, and we stay here. Amanda, this is my parents' house, and one day it will be yours. Why wait decades? Stephen, your father is 62. With luck, he'll live another 20 years. Do you want to wait until you're 50 to finally have the life you deserve? I don't know. Amanda's father intervened. A man of 65 with the authoritarian voice of someone used to being obeyed. Stephen, Amanda is right. Look at this property. It's easily worth $30 million. And you're paying rent in New York City. It's absurd. Convince your father to transfer the property under the pretext of estate planning, tax protection, anything but secure your future, and if he refuses, then we work on your mother. Claire is more malleable, especially now that she's alone, vulnerable with her son visiting more, supporting her, being present. She can influence Michael, make him see reason. I don't know if it will work. It will work. Amanda assured him, because Stephen, your father can't take it all with him when he's gone. And the sooner you secure what's yours, the better. This house, the hotels, eventually, everything. But you need to act, not wait. Amanda's mother added something. And Claire, poor thing. She looks so lonely, so abandoned. Maybe she needs a reminder that family is here, that she can depend on us, that she doesn't need to be in a house this big, this empty, when she could be in something cozier, closer to her grandchildren. The fury I felt in that moment was different from anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't explosive. It was cold, calculated, lethal, because they were conspiring. Not just Stephen and Amanda, but her entire family, planning to take my house, manipulate Claire, steal the future I had built. And Claire, my Claire, was on the balcony crying because she had probably heard these conversations before. She had probably been pressured, manipulated for weeks while I was away, and she had no one defending her, protecting her, because her husband was on the other side of the world. I moved silently toward the balcony, opening the door without a sound. Claire saw me. Her eyes widened in shock, fresh tears falling. Michael, she whispered. Shh, I placed a finger on my lips. Don't say anything, just come with me. I held out my hand. She took it. No questions, no doubts. And we left together off the balcony, avoiding the living room, walking through the side garden toward my car parked down the street where no one would see us, where no one would notice us leave. What's happening? She asked when we were in the car, her voice broken. I heard everything. I know what they've been doing, what they've said. And Claire, we are not going to let this happen. They've been pressuring me for weeks, telling me the house is too big, that I should move, that Stephen needs space for his family, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to bother you while you were working. You are never a bother, and you should have told me immediately. I was afraid that you would think I was exaggerating, that I was being selfish. That never, Claire. You are my wife, my partner, and nobody treats my wife like that, not even our son. What are we going to do? We are going to act, but intelligently, coldly. We are going to show them exactly what happens when they conspire against the wrong people. But first, I need you to tell me everything. Every conversation, every threat, everything. We drove to one of my hotels where I booked the presidential suite. And for the next hour, Claire told me everything. How Stephen had arrived 3 weeks ago with Amanda and the kids and her parents, saying they wanted to spend Christmas at the beach as a family. But then the comments started subtle at first. "Mom, this house is so big. Don't you get lonely?" Then more direct. "You should consider downsizing, something more manageable," and finally explicit. "Dad should transfer the house to Stephen for asset protection to avoid future taxes." "And what did you tell them?" "That I needed to talk to you. That I couldn't make a decision like that without consulting you." And that upset them. Amanda especially. She said it was simple. That I just needed to sign the papers, that you would understand. "Did they physically pressure you, threaten you?" "Not physically, but emotionally, yes. Stephen saying that if I really loved him, I would trust him. Amanda implying I was selfish for keeping such a large property. Her parents acting like it was obvious, like I was a fool for resisting. And today, what happened today specifically? Today, they said they had already spoken to a lawyer, that they had papers ready, that I just needed to sign. And when I said no, when I said we would wait until you got back, Amanda exploded. She said you were controlling, that I was weak, that I was wasting an opportunity. And then they threw this party, like a premature celebration, like they had already won. And I could only cry because my son, my only son, was treating me like an obstacle, like I didn't matter. Like after everything we've done for him, I didn't even deserve basic respect. I held her while she cried. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't just defend Claire. I wouldn't just protect our property. I would teach them a lesson. Stephen, Amanda, and her manipulative in-laws. A lesson they would never forget. "Claire, trust me. In the next few hours, I'm going to fix this. But I need you to stay here in the hotel. Rest and let me handle everything." "What are you going to do?" "Justice, cold, calculated, irreversible. And when I'm done, Stephen will understand exactly what it means to betray his family." I left her in the suite with instructions not to contact anyone. And then I made my calls. The first was to my lawyer who lived in Miami, 30 minutes away. "Michael, it's 10 p.m. It's an emergency. I need documents tonight. Can you do it?" "What kind of documents?" "Revocation of the power of attorney. I gave Stephen a complete change to my will, disinheritance, and transfer of all properties into a trust where Claire is the sole beneficiary for her lifetime. After that, everything goes to charity. That's nuclear. It's necessary. Can you do it or not? Give me 2 hours. I'll have them ready." The second call was to a locksmith I trusted, one who had worked for me for years. "I need you to change every lock in my house tonight and install a new security system with codes that only Claire and I know tonight. Michael, it's Christmas Eve, triple rate, and a $5,000 bonus, but I need you to start in 2 hours and finish before sunrise. I'll be there." The third call was the most satisfying to the police, specifically to an officer I knew who had helped with security at the hotels for years. "Officer Miller, Michael Anderson, I need a favor. Tell me, there are people illegally occupying my house. My son's family, and I need them removed tonight with legal authority." "Illegally, Michael, if they're family, they have no legal right to be there, and they have been harassing my wife. I have evidence of attempted fraud, coercion, conspiracy to obtain property through deceit, and I need them escorted out." "Now that's serious. Do you have proof?" "I'll have it in an hour." "But officer, they are in my house without my permission. Pressuring Claire, and I will not tolerate it for one more minute." "Okay. Get the proof. I'll send a unit." "But Michael, this is your son. Are you sure?" "Completely. My son chose his path. Now he faces the consequences." While I waited for the documents, I went back to the house. But I didn't go in. I stayed outside in the dark garden where I could see without being seen. Watching through the lit windows, watching the party continue, the laughter, the toasts, the celebration of a victory they hadn't won yet. And I recorded everything with my phone. Clear video of Stephen, of Amanda, of her parents. In my living room, drinking my wine, using my house as if it was theirs, visual evidence that would supplement Claire's testimony. After 30 minutes, I heard the conversation I needed. Amanda was talking to her mother loudly with no concern about being heard. "We've almost got it. Claire is broken. We just need to push a little more tomorrow and she'll sign. We'll tell her Michael already approved it, that we just need her signature. And once it's signed, the house is ours legally. And if Michael comes back, if he objects, it will be too late. The papers will be filed. Stephen will have the title. Michael can scream all he wants, but the house will be ours. It's brilliant. And after this, we work on the hotels. Stephen is the only son, the heir. With the right legal pressure, we can force a transfer of control, Especially if we argue Michael is getting older, that he needs help managing the business. Exactly, Mom. In 6 months, this family will have what it deserves: wealth, property, respect, and Michael will finally understand that his time is over. That the new generation is taking control. Stephen chimed in weakly as always. Amanda, maybe we're going too fast. My dad is smart. He's going to notice. Your dad is in Europe chasing deals he doesn't need while we are here building a real future. Stephen, stop being a coward. This is for our children, for our family. Or do you prefer to keep begging for an allowance from your father until you're 50? No. But then trust me. Trust the plan. Tomorrow we pressure Claire, she signs, and we start our new life in this house with this inheritance, as it should have been from the beginning. I recorded every word with a timestamp with perfect clarity. And I smiled, a smile with no humor, because they had just sealed their fate, with their own arrogance, their own greed, completely exposed. At midnight, my lawyer arrived with the documents, a thick folder with papers that would change everything. It's all here, he explained in his office where I had gone to meet him. Revocation of power of attorney, effective immediately. Stephen no longer has any authority to act on your behalf. Good new will. Claire receives everything in a lifetime trust with her as the sole beneficiary and trustee. After her passing, everything goes to the 3 charities you specified. And Stephen receives exactly nothing due to, and I quote, conspiracy to defraud, coercion of a beneficiary, attempt to obtain property by deceit, and fundamental betrayal of family trust. It's all documented, all legally justified, impossible to contest, perfect. And the house transferred into an irrevocable trust with Claire as the trustee. Stephen cannot claim it now or ever. It's completely protected. Excellent. I need copies, 10 sets, and I need these originals filed tonight. I don't care who you have to wake up at the county clerk's office. Get it done, Michael. It's Christmas and my family is under attack, so get it done. Triple rate, bonuses, whatever you need. But these documents are filed before sunrise. Understood? Understood. Give me 3 hours. At 1 a.m., the locksmith arrived with his crew, and they began work, changing every lock, front door, side doors, garage, everything, and installing the new security system with cameras, motion sensors, an alarm directly connected to the police station. It's done, he said at 4 a.m. New keys, only 4 sets for you, for Claire, and 2 spares in the safe, and the system is active. Any attempt to enter without the correct code triggers the alarm and notifies the police automatically with live video feed. Perfect. Thank you. Your payment will be in your account tomorrow at 5 a.m. I got confirmation from the lawyer. Filed everything. It's official. Claire is the owner in trust. Stephen is disinherited and there is no legal way to reverse it. Excellent. Send me certified copies. 3 sets. I need them in an hour. You'll have them. At 6 a.m., as the sun began to rise, I stood in front of my house with Officer Miller, 2 patrol cars, 4 officers, and complete documentation of everything, the recordings, the videos, the testimony, the legal papers. Are you sure about this? Miller asked one last time. Completely. These people entered my property under false pretenses. They have been coercing my wife, and they are conspiring to commit fraud. They are not guests. They are intruders and I want them removed now. Okay. But Michael, your son is going to hate this. Your relationship. There is no relationship. Stephen made his choice. Now he lives with it. I knocked on the door loudly authoritatively. And I waited. I heard movement inside. Confusion. And then Stephen Unk's voice. Police opened the door. More confusion. Then the door opened. Stephen in his pajamas, disheveled with the eyes of someone who hadn't slept well, seeing the patrol cars, the officers, and finally seeing me. Dad, what's going on? Stephen Anderson. Officer Miller intervened. We have a report of illegal occupation of this property and attempted fraud. We need you and all other occupants to leave immediately. Illegal occupation. This is my parents' house. We're visiting. Without the owner's permission, I corrected him. I did not authorize your stay. And you have been coercing Claire, my wife, to sign fraudulent documents. I have evidence, video, audio, testimony, and these officers are here to escort you out. Dad, this is ridiculous. We're family. Family doesn't conspire to steal. Family doesn't pressure a vulnerable mother. Family doesn't plan to take a house through deceit. You are not family. You are criminals and you are leaving now. Amanda appeared in a silk robe, her expression furious. You can't kick us out. Stephen has rights. Stephen has no rights to anything. This is private property which is now in a trust with Claire as the sole beneficiary, and none of you have permission to be here. So, either you leave voluntarily, or the officers will escort you out in handcuffs, if necessary. This is abuse. I'm going to sue. Sue all you want. Here are the documents officially filed at 4 a.m. Irrevocable trust, change of will, complete disinheritance, all legal, all permanent. And here are the recordings of your conversations, planning the fraud, conspiring against Claire. All evidence that can and will be used against you legally if you continue to resist. Amanda's father appeared, trying to regain control. Michael, let's be reasonable. We can discuss this like adults. There is no discussion. You have 30 minutes to collect your things. Clothes, personal items, nothing else. And then you are gone. And if you ever go near Claire again, if you contact her, if you pressure her, if you do anything that upsets her, I will press criminal charges for everything. Coercion, conspiracy, attempted fraud. And believe me, with the evidence I have, with the lawyers I have, you will spend years in a legal battle, losing every step of the way. Stephen, Amanda pleaded, do something. He's your father. Control him. He can't control me because I no longer have any obligation to him. Stephen made his choice. He chose to conspire. He chose to betray. He chose greed over integrity. And now he faces the consequences. 30 minutes. Start packing. I watched them go inside, stunned, disbelieving. The officers waited with me as the sun rose completely, lighting up a Christmas morning that would be unforgettable for reasons they never imagined. 25 minutes later, they came out with suitcases, with confused children, with expressions that combined fury and shock. I watched them leave in their cars, escorted by a patrol car to the city limits to ensure they were really gone. And when the last car disappeared, I turned to Officer Miller. Thank you for everything, Michael. I hope you know what you're doing. This is going to create permanent resentment. There was already resentment. Only now it's mutual and honest. I went inside my house. My house now protected, secured. I walked through every room, seeing the mess they left. Dirty glasses, plates, evidence of a party that never should have happened. And I cleaned personally, restoring order, erasing the presence of the invaders. And when I was finished, when the house was as it should be, I went back to the hotel to Claire. She was awake, waiting, her anxiety obvious. What happened? They're gone. All of them. And they're not coming back. The house is protected legally, financially. And Claire, there's something you need to know. What? The house is yours completely in a trust I created tonight. You are the sole owner, the sole trustee. For as long as you live, no one can take it from you. Not Stephen, not Amanda, not her damned in-laws, no one. Michael, and there's more. The will is changed. Everything, the hotels, the properties, it all goes to you in a lifetime trust. And after you to charity. Stephen inherits nothing because of the conspiracy, the betrayal, because of behavior that deserves no reward. But he's your son. He was my son until he decided to see me as an obstacle, to see you as a target, to see us as a means to his greed. Claire, we built this together, you and I, for 35 years. And I will not allow people who contributed nothing, who sacrificed nothing, who only waited to benefit, to take it. Even if those people share my blood, she cried. But this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of release, from the dread she had been carrying, from the fear she had been feeling. So what do we do now? Now we live without the weight of a traitorous son, without the worry of conspiracy, with the peace that comes from knowing we protected what is ours. And Claire, if Stephen ever shows genuine change, if he shows real remorse, then maybe we consider partial restoration. But until then, nothing. No money, no contact, nothing. Over the next few days, messages came from Stephen, from Amanda, from her parents. Some furious, threatening lawsuits, others pleading, asking for forgiveness that didn't sound genuine, and some calculating, trying to negotiate, looking for a settlement that would give them something. I ignored them all because there was nothing to negotiate. There was no premature forgiveness to give. There were only consequences, natural, inevitable, for the decisions they made. A week after Christmas, Stephen showed up at the reception of one of my hotels, asking to see me. My assistant buzzed me. What should I do? Have security send him away? No. Let him come up. I want to hear what he has to say. Stephen walked into my office. He looked destroyed, gaunt with dark circles that suggested sleepless nights. He sat down without being invited. Dad, I'm not your dad. I'm Michael or Mr. Anderson, if you prefer formality, because Dad suggests a relationship. And that relationship ended when you conspired against your mother. I know I made a mistake. A mistake? Stephen, you planned to steal a house? To coerce Claire? To manipulate documents, and to bring Amanda's family in to apply more pressure. That's not a mistake. That's a criminal conspiracy. And the only reason I'm not pressing charges is because Claire asked me not to. Not because you deserve it. I'm sorry. Genuinely. Are you sorry, or are you sorry you got caught? Because Stephen, I have the recordings of you, of Amanda, of her parents planning everything. And in none of those recordings did I hear remorse, only greed, only calculation of how to take what you didn't earn. It was Amanda. She pressured me. I know, do not blame Amanda. You are a 32-year-old man with an education, with supposed intelligence. You had a choice at every step. And you chose to conspire. You chose to betray. You chose greed. Those are your decisions, not Amanda's. Yours. So what? You just throw me away forever, deny your grandchildren, destroy the entire family over one sustained conspiracy. And Stephen, if your children grow up seeing you as a model, seeing greed rewarded, seeing betrayal with no consequences, what kind of adults will they be? I would rather they grow up without my presence than with the corrupt example of a father who never learned basic values. Please give me a chance. A chance? Stephen, I gave you everything. An expensive education, support when you had no job, a monthly check for years, a house when you needed it. And how did you repay me? By conspiring. And now you ask for more chances. Just one to prove I can change. Then change. Without my help, without my money, without any expectation of an inheritance, build a life, earn a living, support your family with your own effort. And if in 5 years you demonstrate that you are a man of integrity, that you value family over greed, that you have learned your lesson, then maybe we will consider a limited reconnection. But until then, there is nothing. Understood? 5 years. That's a long time. It's an appropriate consequence, Stephen. You conspired for months. You planned to steal for weeks and you expected what? A quick sorry and all is forgiven. No, actions have weight and your action was heavy. So the consequence is heavy. 5 years or never? You choose. And Mom, can I at least talk to her? Claire will decide that. Not me, but Stephen. If you contact her, if you try to manipulate her, if you do anything that pressures her, it's over permanently. No more chances. Clear. Clear. Then go and start building the life you should have built 10 years ago. A life based on your effort, not on my money. He left. And I stayed in my office, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Because I had won. I had protected Claire. I had secured our assets. I had taught a lesson. But I had also lost. A son I loved, grandchildren I barely knew. The illusion of a united family that I would never have again. And that loss, though necessary, though justified, it hurt. The following months were strange. Living in the house that had been invaded, walking through the rooms where the conspiracy had happened, seeing the balcony where Claire had cried. Everything carried the weight of a memory that couldn't simply be erased. Claire processed it differently. Some days she was relieved, grateful for the protection, for being defended when she needed it most. Other days she was sad, crying for the son she had lost, for the grandchildren she didn't see, for the fractured family that might never be repaired. Did I do the right thing? She asked me one night, 2 months after Christmas. We were sitting on that same balcony, looking at the ocean that had always brought us peace. You did the only thing possible, Claire. If we had given in, if we had let them take the house, what came next? The hotels, everything else, where would it end? I know, but Michael, he's our son, our only son, and now we don't have him. He abandoned us first emotionally years ago. We just didn't want to see it or didn't want to accept it. But Claire, a son who conspires against his parents, who sees his mother as a target for manipulation. That isn't a son. That's a stranger with shared DNA. And if he changes, if he really learns, then in 5 years, we'll see. We'll evaluate. But Claire, it can't be cheap forgiveness. It can't be I'm sorry and all is forgotten. He has to earn his way back with years of demonstrating a different character. And in the meantime, we live. We enjoy what we built without guilt, without pressure. Just us. But living without guilt was harder than I imagined. Because even though Stephen had betrayed us, even though he had conspired, part of me still remembered him as a child. An innocent boy who used to run on the beach, who used to help in the first hotel before the greed, before Amanda, before everything got corrupted. And those memories hurt more than I expected because they suggested that maybe I had failed as a father. That maybe if I had been different, more present, less focused on business, Stephen would have turned out different. Claire noticed my internal conflict. It's not your fault. Stephen had everything. Love, education, an example. He chose to ignore all of it. That was his decision. Not your failure. Maybe, but Claire, what if I pushed him? What if my success, my wealth created expectations he couldn't meet? What if the resentment grew because he could never measure up to me? Michael, many children have successful parents. Not all of them conspire to steal. Stephen chose the easy path, expecting to inherit instead of build. That's not your fault. It's his weakness. She was right. Logically, but emotionally, the guilt lingered. Like a shadow I couldn't completely shake. 3 months after Christmas, I received an unexpected call from Amanda. Not Stephen, from Amanda directly. Mr. Anderson, I need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Please, just 5 minutes. Not about money, not about the house. I need to tell you something. Something in her voice. Desperation maybe, or resignation. It made me accept. 5 minutes in my office tomorrow at 2. I'll be there. Thank you. She arrived on time without Stephen. No escort. Alone and looking different, less polished, less confident, more human, maybe. Mr. Anderson, thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. Use them well. Stephen and I are getting divorced. That surprised me. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know it wasn't just my influence. I wasn't the only one responsible. But I also want you to know I've had time to think about what we did. And you were right. It was a conspiracy. It was betrayal. And it was inexcusable. So why did you do it? Greed. Impatience. A feeling that we deserved more than we had. Mr. Anderson, I grew up in a family where money was always there, where I never really had to work. And I thought that's how it should be. That wealth was a right, not a privilege to be earned. And now I'm living in a small apartment, working for the first time in my life in retail, earning minimum wage, and I'm learning what I should have learned years ago. That money is earned, that respect is earned, that nothing is an automatic right. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that at least one person from that conspiracy understands the magnitude of the mistake. And Mr. Anderson, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for restoration. I just want you to know that I learned painfully. But I learned. And Stephen is struggling trying to find work, trying to support the kids, trying to be a single father he never learned how to be. And I don't know if he'll learn, but I learned. And I wanted you to know that. I appreciate the honesty. Even if it's late, I know. And Mr. Anderson, one more thing. The children, your grandchildren, they're not at fault and they deserve to know you. To know Claire? Not now, maybe, but eventually when things calm down. Please consider it. I will consider it. But Amanda, children learn from their parents. And if you don't show character, if you don't demonstrate values, then seeing them is just exposing myself to more pain, more disappointment. I understand. But Mr. Anderson, I'm working on that, on being a different, better person, and I know it will take years, but at least now I'm on the right path. She left, and I stayed processing the conversation. Was it genuine, or was it a more sophisticated manipulation? I couldn't be sure, but something in her tone, in her appearance, suggested an authenticity I hadn't seen before. That night, I shared the conversation with Claire. Do you believe her? I want to believe her. But Claire, I've been fooled before by people who seem sincere. Maybe she is being sincere. Maybe losing everything, the retail job, the divorce. Maybe that was her rock bottom, her wake-up call. Maybe. Or maybe it's a long-term strategy. Earning trust slowly to try again. Michael, you can't live in perpetual distrust. At some point you have to decide. Do you give a chance or do you close the door permanently? I don't know yet, but it won't be soon and it won't be easy. 6 months after Christmas, a pattern emerged. Stephen was working at a small architecture firm, not as a partner, as a junior employee, earning a fraction of what he expected, but working consistently. I knew this because a friend of mine, the owner of the firm, contacted me. Michael, your son is working for me. Did you know? No. How did he get there? He applied like any other candidate. Without mentioning his connection to you. And honestly, he's good, talented, hardworking, different from what I expected based on his reputation. What reputation? That he was spoiled? That he didn't work? That he lived off your money? But Michael, that's not the man I see. I see someone hungry, determined, trying to prove something. Prove what? Maybe that he can be more than the son of a successful man. That he can build something of his own. That information made me think. Was Stephen really changing? Or was this an act for an audience that would eventually report back to me? I couldn't be sure, but at least he was working. That was something. 1 year after Christmas, Claire received a letter from Stephen. Not asking for money, not asking for forgiveness, just sharing his life. Mom, I know Dad said 5 years. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I needed you to know. The kids ask about you about Grandpa and I don't know what to tell them because I don't want to lie, but I also don't want to explain that their father was an idiot who betrayed his family. So, I just say you're busy, that you live far away, that you love them but can't visit right now. And they accept that because they're innocent kids. But Mom, one day they'll ask more. They'll want to know the truth and I'll have to explain how I ruined everything. How I lost my family because of greed, and it will be the hardest conversation of my life. I'm not asking you to forgive. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking you to know that I think about you, that I miss you, and that I'm trying to be the man I should have been from the beginning. Your son Stephen. Claire cried reading the letter. And she showed it to me. What do you think? I think it sounds sincere. But words are cheap. Actions sustained over years. Those count. And the children, Michael, they're innocent. They don't deserve to lose their grandparents because of their father's mistakes. I know. But Claire, if we see the children, if we get involved, then Stephen is in our lives. And I need to be sure, absolutely sure, that this isn't manipulation. That it's not a strategy to reconnect and then try again. How can you ever be sure? With time, with observation, with consistent demonstration over years. But in the meantime, the kids are growing up without knowing us. That's the price of protection. Claire, I know it hurts, but I prefer that pain to the pain of being betrayed again. She understood, even if she didn't like it, and she didn't reply to the letter, because even though the mother in her wanted to reconnect, the wife who had been protected understood the need for caution. 18 months after Christmas, my friend, the firm owner, contacted me again. Michael, you need to know something about Stephen. What happened? Nothing bad. Quite the opposite. He just closed a big project, an important client with a brilliant design. And the client was so impressed they want to give him an additional project directly to him. That's good. No, it's excellent. But Stephen turned down the personal project. He said he preferred it to be a firm project, that he wasn't ready to work independently, that he needed more experience, more mentorship, that level of humility in an architecture world full of egos. It's rare, and that surprises you completely, because he could have taken the project, earned a big commission, started on the path to independence. But he chose humility. He chose learning over a quick buck. Michael, that says something about his character. That information made me reconsider. Was Stephen really different? Really learning the lessons he needed to? The evidence suggested yes, but part of me still doubted. Still expected it to be an elaborate act. Claire noticed my conflict. You're thinking about him, about giving him a chance before the 5 years are up. I'm thinking, but Claire, I can't decide based on third-party reports. I need to see for myself. I need to evaluate him directly. So, what do you propose? A test without him knowing it's a test. Creating a situation where he can demonstrate if he's really changed or if he's still who he was. What kind of situation? I'm still planning it. But it will be something that reveals his true nature, like I did before. But this time, hoping for a different outcome. 2 months later, 2 years after Christmas, I created the opportunity through a third party, a friend of a friend. He contacted Stephen, offering a project, the design of a boutique hotel in Naples with a generous budget and a commission that would be life-changing for a young architect. But there was a catch hidden in the details. The client, the supposed client, was me through a shell company, and the contract included a clause, small, almost invisible. It said, final payment is subject to the satisfaction of the undisclosed owner, who has the right to modify terms at his discretion. A clause that any competent lawyer would warn against, because it gave the client total control. It allowed for abuse. It allowed them to not pay if the client simply decided they weren't satisfied. It was a predatory clause designed to see, would Stephen accept it desperate for the work, or would he question it, protecting his interests as a professional should. The answer came a week later through the intermediary. Stephen reviewed the contract and he has questions specifically about the satisfaction clause. He says it's too vague, that he needs objective criteria, that he will not sign without a modification even if it means losing the project. I smiled because that was the right answer. The answer a professional with integrity would give. Not desperation, not blind acceptance, but smart negotiation, protecting his rights. Tell him the client accepts the modification. The problematic clause will be removed and the project will proceed with fair terms. Are you sure? I thought this was a test. It was, and he passed. Stephen proved he's not desperate, that he won't accept just anything, that he has professional standards. That's what I needed to see. The project proceeded, and for the next 3 months, I watched through reports. Stephen worked meticulously, designing a hotel that was honestly beautiful, with attention to detail, with creativity, with a professionalism I had never seen in him before. And when the project was finished, when the design was presented, it was exceptional. Genuinely exceptional. So much so that I decided I would build that hotel for real. Not as a test, but because it was good business. But first, I needed to do something. Something I had avoided for 2 years. I needed to talk to Stephen directly, face to face. No intermediaries, no buffers, just father and son or whatever was left of that relationship. I arranged a meeting in my main office at the oldest hotel, the first one I built with Claire 30 years ago. A place with meaning, with history, with memories of when everything was just beginning and values mattered more than profit. I asked the intermediary to contact Stephen, the owner of the project, wants to meet to discuss the implementation of the design. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Stephen accepted, not knowing the owner was me, not suspecting the entire test had been orchestrated by his father, and that was important because his behavior during these months, it had been genuine, without an audience, without knowing he was being evaluated. The morning of the meeting, I woke up early with nerves I hadn't felt in years, because this was a decisive moment. 2 years of separation, 2 years of silence, 2 years of wondering if the son I raised still existed under the layers of greed and manipulation. Claire sensed my anxiety. Are you sure about this? No, but I need to do it. I need to know if Stephen really changed or if these 2 years were just a more elaborate act. And if he has changed, if it's genuine, then we consider reconciliation. Slow, careful, but possible. And if not, then I close that door permanently. No more doubts, no more hope, just acceptance that the son I knew no longer exists. I prepared meticulously, reviewing everything I had documented, the work reports, the professional conduct, the ethical decisions, everything I had. It all suggested genuine change. But I still needed personal confirmation. I needed to look him in the eyes, hear his voice, feel if the transformation was real. At 2 p.m. exactly, Stephen arrived. My assistant greeted him without revealing the client's identity, and she guided him to the conference room where I was waiting, seated with the design portfolio in front of me with a neutral expression that didn't reveal the turbulent emotions underneath. The door opened and Stephen walked in with his own portfolio, with a professional expression, with the confidence of someone who has done good work and knows it. But then he saw me and everything froze. The color drained from his face. His portfolio almost fell from his hands. And for a long moment, a very long moment, we just looked at each other. Father and son, separated by 2 years, by betrayal, by consequences that had reshaped everything. Dad, he finally whispered. Stephen, sit down. He sat mechanically, without taking his eyes off me, as if he was afraid I was an illusion. Or worse, as if he was afraid of what came next. I assume you're wondering what's happening. You're the client. You arranged all this, correct? The Naples project, the offer. It was all a test to see who you are now. After 2 years, I saw something cross his face. Not anger, not outrage, but understanding, acceptance almost. And did I pass? So far, you rejected the predatory clause. You worked professionally. You created an exceptional design. And according to reports, you did it with integrity. No shortcuts, no expectation of special treatment. That's something. But it's not enough, is it? I don't know yet. That's why you're here. So we can talk, really talk, for the first time in 2 years. Okay. What do you want to know? I want to know if you understand, truly understand the magnitude of what you did. Not just conspiring, but betraying trust, pressuring your mother, planning to steal what you didn't earn. Do you understand that? Every day, Dad, not a day goes by that I don't regret it. That I don't remember Mom's tears on that balcony. That I don't remember my arrogance. My greed, my complete lack of character. Words are easy, Stephen. I've heard apologies before from people who felt nothing. I know. That's why I didn't call. I didn't beg for forgiveness. I just lived. I worked. I tried to be different because I knew words wouldn't be enough. That only sustained actions would count. And Amanda, the divorce was necessary. Because Dad, Amanda never changed. She stayed who she was, greedy, manipulative, blaming everyone but herself. And I finally understood that if I stayed with her, if I raised our kids in that environment, they would just become versions of us. And I couldn't let that happen. And now, what is your life like? Honest, humble. I work 6 days a week. I make enough to support the kids, to pay a modest rent, to live within my means. No luxuries, no pretensions, just an existence based on what I produce, not on what I expect to inherit. And the kids, how are they? For the first time, I saw tears form in Steve and Unk's eyes. Confused, they ask about the grandparents they don't see, about the big house they used to visit. And Dad, I don't know what to tell them because the truth is ugly. That their father was an idiot who destroyed his family. But a lie is worse. So, I try to explain in a way 5-year-olds can understand that sometimes adults make huge mistakes and the consequences last a long time. And what do they say? They say they want to meet you to meet Grandma Claire. That they see pictures and they want to hug the people in the pictures. And every time they say that, my heart breaks a little more because I know I deprived them of that with my stupid decisions. Silence fell between us, heavy, loaded with 2 years of separation, of pain, of growth maybe. And I watched my son, really watched him, seeing not the conspirator from 2 years ago, but a different man, thinner, more tired, but also more real, more authentic, without the veneer of arrogance he used to wear. Stephen, why did you turn down the independent project? The client who wanted to hire you directly. My friend told me you refused. Why? Because I wasn't ready. Because Dad, for my entire life, I took shortcuts. I expected things to come to me because of my last name, because of connections, because of your money. And I always failed, because I never built a real foundation. I never learned the humility of starting from the bottom. So when that client offered me the project, I saw the temptation, the chance to win big, fast. But I also saw the trap of falling back into old patterns. So I refused because I needed more time, more experience, more proof to myself that I had really changed. That was a wise decision. It was the right decision. And Dad, I know this probably sounds calculated, like I was doing the right thing just to impress you. But honestly, I didn't know you were watching. I thought you had written me off completely. That these 2 years had been in a vacuum with no audience, just me trying to be better. And that's why it's significant because Stephen, if you had known I was watching, your behavior would have been an act. But without that knowledge, it was genuine. And that counts for something. Does it count enough for forgiveness? For a chance to reconnect? I don't know yet, but it counts for this. For me to consider it, for me to talk to Claire, for us to evaluate if a partial restoration is possible. Not a full restoration. Not like nothing happened, but a limited connection with the grandchildren, especially because you're right. They are innocent. They don't deserve to lose their grandparents because of your mistakes. That would be dead. That would be more than I dreamed of, more than I deserve. It's not about deserving. It's about opportunity, about giving genuine change a chance. But Stephen, it comes with conditions. Strict, non-negotiable, whatever it is, I accept any condition. First, you never ever mention money. Inheritance, property, nothing financial with us, with Claire especially. Those topics are closed permanently understood. Second, the reconnection is gradual. We start with video calls, then short supervised visits, and only if that goes well for months, even years, do we consider more. Perfect. Whatever you need. Third, if there is any sign that the old patterns are returning, greed, manipulation, any behavior that reminds us of the conspiracy, it is over immediately. No more chances. That's fair. Fourth, the will remains as it is, the complete disinheritance. It does not change. Not now. Not in the near future. Maybe in years. If you demonstrate absolute consistency, we will consider a minor modification. But do not expect it. Do not count on it. Build your life assuming you will inherit nothing. I already am. And Dad, honestly, I don't want the inheritance anymore. I don't want the money. I just want a relationship with you, with Mom. That's worth more than any property. We'll see if that's true. With time, with sustained action, I'll prove it for as long as it takes. After almost 2 hours of conversation, of hard questions, of answers that seem genuine, I made a decision. All right, I will talk to Claire. I will tell her about this conversation, about the changes I see. And if she agrees, if she feels comfortable, we will arrange a video call with her, with you, and with the children. And we'll see how it goes. Stephen cried openly without shame. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for the chance. I won't waste it. I promise. Promises are words. Show me with actions for years. And maybe, just maybe, we'll rebuild something real. That night, I spoke with Claire. I told her everything and I saw tears in her eyes, too. Do you think it's real? The change? I want to believe it. And the evidence suggests it is. But Claire, we can't know for sure. Not yet. We need time. Continued observation. And in the meantime, we take one small step, a video call with the grandchildren. We see how it feels. And then we decide the next step. When? How about Sunday? 3 days from now. It gives you time to prepare emotionally. Sunday came. We set up the video call from the living room of our house. And when the connection was established, I saw Stephen in a modest apartment with 2 children, Mason and Sarah, who we hadn't seen in person since they were 3. "Kids," Stephen said softly. "Do you remember Grandpa Michael, Grandma Claire, Mason?" Shelley nodded. "From the pictures, but we never talked." "Well, today we're going to talk, and I need you to be respectful and kind. Can you do that?" "Yes, Daddy," they said together. And for the next hour, we talked with grandchildren we barely knew about school, about games, about drawings they had made. And it was beautiful, painfully beautiful, because they were innocent, pure, uncontaminated by their father's mistakes. Claire cried silently from happiness, from sadness for the lost time, from hope for the future. And I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Something like family fractured, scarred, but maybe reparable. After the call, when the kids had gone to play, Stephen stayed on the screen. "Thank you for this. I know it was hard." "It was," Claire admitted. "But Stephen, it was also beautiful. Your children are wonderful. They are, and they deserve grandparents. They deserve an extended family. And I am going to make sure with every action, with every decision that they have it." Over the following months, the video calls became weekly. And slowly, very slowly, we began to heal. Not completely because some wounds are too deep, but enough. Enough to have conversations, to share small moments, to build a new relationship different from the old one, but real. 6 months after that first video call, 3 years after that Christmas, we invited Stephen and the kids to visit for a weekend with clear rules. They would stay in a hotel, not the house. They would visit during the day, but return to the hotel at night, maintaining boundaries. And when they arrived, when I saw Stephen get out of the car with the kids holding his hands with an expression of genuine gratitude, I felt something. A small pride because this man who had fallen so low was genuinely trying to be better. The weekend was careful with awkward moments, but also with beautiful moments. Mason and Sarah playing on the beach. Claire teaching them to build sand castles. Stephen watching with a gratitude he couldn't hide. The last night after taking the kids back to the hotel, Stephen returned alone, asking to talk. "I just wanted to say thank you for this weekend, for the chance." "Don't thank me yet. This is a beginning, not an end." "I know, but Dad, I need to say something. When I was conspiring, when I planned to take the house, I thought I was securing a future for my kids. But I was wrong. Because what I would have taught them with that example is that greed works, that betrayal is acceptable, and they would have grown up with those values. Becoming horrible people probably. But now I'm teaching them something different, that mistakes have consequences, that forgiveness is earned, that family is built on respect, not on financial expectations. And Dad, that is a better legacy, more valuable than any monetary inheritance." That's true. And Stephen, that shows real growth. Over the next year, the visits continued every 2 months. And every time, I saw more evidence of sustained change. Stephen growing professionally, earning respect in his industry. Not because of his last name, but because of his genuine work. 3.5 years after Christmas, Stephen came with important news. "Dad, I've been offered a partnership at the firm where I work. I need an initial investment, $300,000. And Dad, I am not asking you for money, only for advice. Do you think I should do it? Take a bank loan or wait until I save enough?" This was a decisive moment because he was asking for advice. Not money, not a bailout, just guidance. "How much have you saved?" $150,000. "Half of what I need and the bank would lend you the rest, probably with high interest." "But yes, and if I loaned it to you with a formal contract, reasonable interest, a structured payment plan, not as a gift, but as a real loan, would you accept it under those terms?" You would do that if it's a real loan with a real expectation of repayment with consequences if you fail." "Then yes, because Stephen, this is a legitimate opportunity to build something of your own and supporting that isn't a bailout. It's an investment in your genuine future. I accept with all the conditions. And Dad, I will pay you back every single dollar with interest." "Then let's do it." "But Stephen, if you fail, if you don't pay, there are no more chances." "Understood?" "Completely." The loan was formalized with lawyers, with official documents, and for the next 2 years, Stephen paid on time, every month, without fail, demonstrating a responsibility he had never shown. And the partnership flourished. Stephen grew as a professional, as a partner, as a leader in a firm that was gaining national recognition. And every achievement was his, earned with effort, not inherited. 5 years after that Christmas, Claire and I celebrated our 40th anniversary. We threw a party, small, intimate, with close friends. And for the first time in 5 years, we invited Stephen and the grandchildren, not as a gesture of complete forgiveness, but as an acknowledgement of sustained progress. During the party, Stephen gave a speech unplanned, just standing up spontaneously. I want to say something about my parents. 5 years ago, I was a horrible person. I conspired against them. I planned to steal from them. I was a coward who let his wife and in-laws manipulate him and my parents. Instead of just disinheriting me and forgetting me, they did something harder. They gave me consequences. Real painful consequences. And then after years of me proving I had changed, they gave me a chance. Not an easy one, not a handout, but a fair one. And that combination of tough justice followed by an earned opportunity, it saved me. It made me the man I should have been from the beginning. So, Mom, Dad, thank you for not giving up on me completely, but also for not bailing me out easily, for finding that perfect balance between justice and mercy. I love you. Applause followed, and Claire cried, and I felt something complete. A cycle closed, not perfectly, but healed enough to move forward. That night, on the balcony where 5 years ago Claire had cried alone, we sat together looking at the stars. Was it worth it? All the pain, the separation, the toughness. Yes, because Claire, we got something back. Not what we had, but something better. Something based on earned respect, not obligation. And Stephen is a different man, a better man. And his kids will see the right example of consequences, of redemption, of real values. And the will you change it more? Maybe, if Stephen continues as he is after 7 total years, I'll consider an increase to 15%. But Claire, it will never be everything because that choice needs to remain. That an inheritance is not a right. It is a privilege that is earned. Years passed. Stephen continued to grow and our relationship with him, while it never went back to the way it was, became something valuable, something authentic based on mutual respect. And when finally, at 70 years old, I updated my final will, Stephen received 20%. Not for being my son, but for having demonstrated over a decade a genuine transformation. The rest still went to charity, to foundations, to causes that would change lives. And Stephen, when I informed him, he didn't protest. He just said, "Thank you for acknowledging the effort. And, Dad, if I inherited nothing, I would still be okay because what I got back is worth more. My relationship with you, my self-respect, the example for my kids, that's priceless." If you're listening to this story on William's Revenge Stories, I want you to understand something fundamental. A family based on financial expectations is not a real family. It's a transaction. And transactions don't survive a crisis. I came back from my trip to surprise Claire for Christmas. But the surprise was on me. I found a conspiracy. I found my wife crying while my son celebrated with invaders planning to steal our home. I had a choice. To act weakly, to allow the invasion to keep a superficial peace, or to act strongly, to defend Claire, to protect what we built, to teach lessons that hurt but transformed. I chose strength. And while it cost years of separation, while it meant losing my son temporarily, it also meant saving him permanently. Because the Stephen who conspired all those years ago would have continued in a downward spiral, destroying his family, teaching his kids corrupt values, living a life of dependency and resentment. But the Stephen of today, transformed by hard consequences, is a man who respects himself, who works, who earns, who teaches his children about integrity, and that Stephen is worth more than a submissive son who never learned the necessary lessons. From Key West at 68 years old and with a family rebuilt on a foundation of earned respect. I wish you wisdom to recognize when love requires toughness, when protection requires separation, when saving someone means letting them fall far enough to hit bottom and decide to climb. And I wish you courage. The courage to apply consequences that hurt, to resist emotional manipulation, to prioritize values over comfort. Stephen conspired against us and he paid the price for years. But he also gained something invaluable. The chance to become a real man with real character. And now years later, we have a relationship, not perfect, but authentic, based on mutual respect, not on expectations of an inheritance. And that relationship is worth more than any property. Thanks for listening to my story. And if it helped you, if it gave you the courage to defend your own boundaries, share it. Because somewhere another father is discovering a conspiracy. Another mother is crying on a balcony, and they both need to know there is a path through it. Painful, long, but possible. The house I defended that Christmas is now a safe refuge for Claire, for me, and occasionally for a son and grandchildren who learn to visit it with respect, not with a sense of entitlement, with gratitude, not with expectations. And that difference between entitlement and privilege, between expectation and gratitude is everything. It's the lesson that saved a family, that transformed a son, that ensured the next generation will grow up with the right values. If my story teaches anything, let it be this. True love sometimes requires toughness. Real protection sometimes requires distance. And a genuine family is built on earned respect, not on inherited obligation.